Welcome to 7 for 12 live on the eve of the second test match, England versus India. This is something new on 7 for 12. We're going live. We're going to answer all your questions. So, please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review. We'll get back to you. And John Norman is going to be alongside me to basically answer everything you need. Well, John, Lords looks fantastic. The sun is shining for once. The sun is shining at a game of cricket versus England versus India. What's the news on the ground?
Well, hello to you, Harmy. Straight up and first up. Look, there's no way the rain is going to come and save England in the second test like it did in the first. That's for sure. All the India fans out there watching this first Q&A on Harmy's YouTube channel, rest assured, we will not be sitting here and talking about rain for the best part of 2 days. A little bit of rain on Sunday maybe, but apart from that, it looks glorious here at Lords. Well, what can I tell you about Lords? You've played here, Harmy. You've got your name on the honours board back there, as have some of the true greats of Indian cricket. Now, what are we going to see over the next 5 days? Well, I'll tell you what we're not going to see. We're not going to see, in all likelihood, Stuart Broad. We're not going to see Jimmy Anderson, and we're not going to see Shardul Thakur. Just been in on the Johnny Bairstow press conference, Joe Root speaking yesterday, and also Virat Kohli. It does look like India are going to make at least one change. So Ravichandran Ashwin will come in, you'd think, for Shardul Thakur, but Virat Kohli was being a little bit coy about that. For England, well, there could be changes aplenty. Mark Wood, I'm expecting him to play in place of Stuart Broad. I think it's a bit of a toss-up between Craig Overton, who last played Test cricket in the Ashes 2019, and Saqib Mahmood, who has starred really in white ball cricket this summer. Moeen Ali, who Virat Kohli spoke very fondly of indeed. He will play, and we're expecting him to play at 7. That means Butler will move up 1. I don't think Dan Lawrence is going to play this Test match. And Haseeb Hameed to come in for one of Dominic Sibley or Zach Crawley. I think he will come in for Crawley. It means Ollie Pope will probably miss out. So bags of changes ahead of the second Test match. As expected, you've put out the call and cry on Twitter and Instagram for questions through to your live Q&A. Look, shall we go back in history to start off with the first one? Back to 2005, we've had a question from John Hare. I wonder if he's related to Daryl Hare. Steve, big fan of yours here in Australia. Oh, maybe he is. 2005 Ashes, third test, day 5, final over, Harmison to bowl. What was your thought process and how did you stay in the moment?
Oh, well, John, to be honest, the thought process, there wasn't a great deal going through my mind at the best of times. But actually go back to that moment, there wasn't a lot on the ball, I must admit. I just finished about 40 minutes earlier, just finished a long spell where I managed to get Ricky Ponting out. Freddie was going well at the other end. Simon Jones, if you remember, got Michael Clarke with a in-swinging on off stump, which the sound is still ringing in my ears. But then Simon got cramp. When Simon got cramp, I had to come back on and bowl. I didn't have a great deal left. And I was just trying to get the ball straight. I thought if I can bowl 6 balls at the stumps, I've got a chance, especially against McGrath. And the body was telling me one thing. The legs was telling me something completely different. And I literally had nothing left. But trying to stay in the moment and understand. If you remember just a week earlier with Michael Kasprovic, I went back to my best ball. I had a similar situation where I was tired, I was flagging, bowled a lot of overs, and I just thought I'm going to have to go back to my best ball. And my best ball was a short ball at Edgbaston, but it was just so, because of time, we had a little bit more time to play with no time left. 6 balls at the stumps. I thought if I get 6 in a row at the stumps, I've got a chance, but the body just wouldn't let me do it. So I think the advice to anybody when you're in a pressurized situation like that, to try and calm yourself as much as you possibly can, which is difficult, and try and bowl your best ball, not what any other bowler would do, your natural length, and try and bowl your best ball.
Do you have any regrets? He also asks at the end of that.
None whatsoever. None whatsoever. Simon was off the field. I bowled my absolute pluck out along with Simon and Matthew and Ashley Giles, who bowled brilliantly on that day, as well as Freddie. So no regrets whatsoever. Australia got over the line, celebrated as though they had won. Michael Vaughan got us into a huddle. And if you want a little bit more on that one, John, Michael Vaughan does a test of time on that test match, and he's absolutely brilliant on it. And he'll tell you exactly what he said in the huddle. He just said, look at Australia. These haven't lost the Ashes in 20 years, and they're celebrating a draw. We've got a chance of beating these, and we did.
Brilliant stuff. Yes, Test of Time. That's the weekly show where Harmy is joined by a legend of the game, essentially, to look back at their favourite Test match. So we've had Rob Key look back at West Indies Test here, actually, where he met the Queen, 2004. We've had Ross Taylor look back at the Hamilton Test of 2008 when he scored his maiden Test century for New Zealand. Possibly the World Test Championship final will be his Test of Time now, and plenty of others. So if you haven't watched that, please do. Right, okay. Cricket Critique asks the following question. Hi, mate. What would you attribute to the recent surge in genuine fast bowling, especially in England? Is it the coaching standards at youth level in terms of strength and conditioning? Or do you think domestic teams are braver and play more tearaways? Well, you come from a part of the world where they seem to breed fast bowlers more than anywhere else. So what do you put it down to?
I think they come in cycles, to be honest. I think they come in cycles from a bowling point of view. I think you do tend to get a lot in one go, and then you don't get many for a while. I think there are some good fast bowlers knocking about, but there's not getting through the system of first-class cricket into England because it's going to take something absolutely special to get rid of Broad and Anderson, because they are special. What I put down to a lot more fast bowlers, especially around the world, is one-day cricket. You see one-day cricket. One-day cricket now, you have got to have something different. You've got to be a spinner that turns it both ways, or you've got to be quick. You've got to be, like you say, a tearaway. You've got to be quick and then rein it in one-day cricket to get, obviously, your lines and lengths better, because obviously you can't bowl wide. I think the amount of one-day cricket you play, the white ball game now, you have to have pace, because if not, you just get murdered. 80-mile-an-hour bowlers in T20, the 100, the blast, all this stuff, they go 10 rows back. So you've got to have pace. You look at the players now that go to the IPL and really succeed. If you haven't got pace, you've got to have mystery slower balls. You've got to have a bag of tricks like you'd not believe. With the likes of Kagisi Rabada, Unrik Nokia, a couple of years ago when Delhi were very, very successful. Jameson's got a bit of height, so he gets away with it a little bit. But he's still got a decent amount of pace. You look at Jasprit Bumrah, Shami's got a yard of pace. The likes of Pat Cummins, all these top fast bowlers now that play well in the IPL, it's because they've got pace, and actually trying to hit somebody of 90 mile an hour is a little bit more difficult than hitting somebody of 80 mile an hour. So I think the game is transforming into where you need a little bit more pace than just on a green seamer sticky dog in England, where you can run up Darren Stevens 75 mile an hour, land it, and who knows what's going to happen off the pitch. I think them days, hopefully, are going out of the game, because if the pitches are getting better, the bowlers need to be a little bit faster, because if not, 80 mile an hour just go around the park.
Okay, we're going to head over to YouTube for some live questions in a second, but quick one from Newcastle Fans TV that says, where will Newcastle finish this season? We know you're a huge Newcastle United fan. That's why the colouring on your YouTube channel is black and white. Also for me, of course, as a Fulham fan. But yeah, how do you think Newcastle are going to go this season?
I think they'll finish around about the same place as they'll finish last year, around about 12th, 10th, 12th. I think it'll be where Newcastle are. There's been a lot made. There is a lot made of Steve Bruce. There's a lot made of, obviously, Mike Ashley, the club. I think for the first time in a long time, I believe Mike Ashley is really wanting to sell the business. Steve Bruce, if he's got Alan at maximum, if he's got Callum Wilson, he's got a team. He's got the makings of a great side. A good side, and compete with the teams in the Premier League. I don't think the Premier League's that good. I must admit, I think there's 4 or 5 good sides, and I think the rest are very much of a muchness. We've got to get off to a good start against West Ham. Get off to a good start against West Ham, who were in and around Champions League spots last year. I think signs will be decent. The fans need to get behind the team, and hopefully they'll do that. They normally do that anyway at St James's Park, and fingers crossed we do have a good season, because if St Maximum and Wilson play, we showed at parts of last season we were up there as good as anybody. We give Man City a game. We beat Leicester comfortably. If we haven't got them, then it could be a long, arduous season. But fingers crossed. Come on, fingers crossed.
Okay, well, there's no Fulham this season, so that's 6 points you're not going to get. Let's head over to the YouTube channel then. Let's see what questions we have for you. I know that there are people watching all over the world. Abhishek Yadav says, why don't we see more high score? Yeah, Abhishek, by the way, you're the very first YouTuber to ask a question on 7 for 12. So well done to you. Why don't we see more high-scoring test matches these days? Is it that batsmen are not that technically correct, or the bowlers are just too good in this era?
Well, Abhishek, thank you very much for being the first person to come on to 7 for 12. I think you've got a bit of both, to be honest, of what you're saying. I think the batsmen now technically are set up to hit the ball sort of hard, so hands are coming out in front of their body. And I think bowlers are seeing this, and they're very, very skillful. Because of what I mentioned a bit earlier, if you've not got extreme pace, you have to be able to do something with the ball to survive in the game. And you look at somebody like Jimmy Anderson. Jimmy Anderson, he's a one-off, an example. But if you look at the way Jimmy Anderson exploits weakness in opposition's technique, it is frightening. And what I mean by that is, if you've got, and I'm sitting here now, Johnny Bairstow is on my screen. You look at somebody like Johnny Bairstow, who stands in and around off stump, picks his bat up high, looks to hit the ball, and he gets bowled a hell of a lot. Jimmy Anderson will have worked out that an angle just a little bit wider than he normally goes. It goes in towards off stump, and as it goes in towards off stump, there's a little gap between Johnny Bairstow's batting pad, and that's where Jimmy Anderson, I know he plays in the same team, but that's where he'd be looking to get him. I'm just talking about from an example point of view. You look at somebody like Pujara, who bats all day. Jimmy Anderson will try and move, and Stuart Broad will try and move him around the crease. These bowlers now are very, very skillful. Rohit Sharma, again, a very, very talented white ball player. He's working very hard in Test match cricket to be the best Test match player he can be. And I think that's how Anderson looks to get Rohit Sharma out, trying to drag him across, and the ball going back. If he misses it, it hits him LBW or it bowls him. And I think bowlers now are getting more skillful, and batsmen are getting more mechanical. And I think that is why you're not seeing people bat for 6 hours. That was my time. People batting for 6 hours is just unheard of now. If somebody bats for 6 hours now, they're getting 150, 180 in a day because of the way the game has moved, and it's gone into fast forward.
Brilliant question, Abhishek, and that is exactly the kind of question that we like. As you know, Steve Harmison can get technical, he can get passionate, he can do it all. So get your technical questions in. I will take him up on one thing though. If Dominic Sibley bats for 6 hours, he still only scores 28. But hey,
there's always one somewhere though. There's always one somewhere.
There is always one somewhere.
If he bats 6 hours at one end for 28, surely that a Root or a Bairstow or a Stokes or a Butler, if they can hang in and have a good day and bat for 6 hours at the other end, England will still score at 3.5 and over.
Oh, absolutely. And we saw that in the first Test match, didn't we? If it wasn't for Sibley batting for 133 deliveries to help Joe Root through, then England may well be 1-0 down coming into this second Test match. So keep the questions coming in on YouTube. We will endeavour to answer as many as we can in the next 16 minutes or so. Right, I'm going to go back to one we had on Twitter from an Ian, and he says, who was the bowler you least liked facing?
Oh, least liked facing. Oh, would I would like to think I was relatively brave and I'd get in behind it if there was a batsman at the other end. Shoaib Akhtar wasn't very enjoyable. The bowlers like Shane Warne, I was quite comfortable with. Glenn McGrath, quite comfortable with, because I knew for a fact if they landed in a certain area, I was never good enough to hit it. So I was fine with that. I knew I wasn't good enough. The bowled me, hurt me on the pad, and that was it. Shoaib Akhtar was frighteningly quick, and I was fortunate to play alongside, or unfortunate to play alongside Joe for a little bit, whichever way you want to look at it. Mitchell Johnson hit me in the throat. First ball I faced against him in Champions Trophy in India, and that wasn't pleasant. Quick bowlers on slow pitches were an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Brett Lee, I remember Brett Lee, Mark Butcher, another one. Test of Time tells a story when Brett Lee peppered me at Sydney, and Nasser should have declared because we had more than enough. And I was looking at the dressing room to say, "Come on, do I really need to be out there? I really don't want to face this guy because he's going to hurt me." But I think the most scariest spell I've ever faced, and Alex Tudor will back me up on this, because I walked out to the wicket. I think it was 7.5 minutes after Alex Tudor retired hurt and came out, by the time they got everything cleaned up and it went on. And Brett Lee at Perth, on what was called the fastest wicket in 25 years, downwind, was not very pleasant. And I remember looking back, I remember saying to Alex Stewart when he came up to say, "Everything all right?" There's sawdust everywhere because Tuesday had been hit in the face. And I remember him looking at me and saying, "Everything all right? You know, you're everything good?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I looked and I turned to Stewie and I said, "Is he standing that far back?" And he nodded at me. Adam Gilchrist was about 5 yards outside the 30-yard circle. He was miles away. And I thought, "Oof, this is not going to be pleasant." And it wasn't. So probably the scariest I've ever been on a cricket pitch, was
how many balls did you face of Lee on that occasion?
Fortunately, I didn't face too many. And when they say you get sledged off the Australians, Darren Lehman gave me the best advice ever from short leg. And he said, "Harmy, I'm going to take a step back. Now, when you face this ball, take a step back, let him see the stumps, and just get the game over. No point being brave now when you need 250 just to make us bat again." So I took his advice. I did take a little step to one side, had a swing, there's stumps everywhere. And that was the Ashes over. Nasser Hussain had lost the Ashes in 11 days, I think it was. So it was the best bit of advice an Australian ever gave me, because it was frightening, absolutely frightening. And if you haven't seen that, go on YouTube and have a look at Tudor's dismissal. It is horrible the way Tudor got hit, but it wasn't pleasant walking out straight after it, I must admit.
Oof, it sounds horrendous. Okay, we're going to switch tack to some Instagram questions. Ashley Marine, I probably have not pronounced that correctly, has 2 quick fire questions for you. First off, how tall are you?
6'5".
And the second one is your favorite city to travel to in India.
I'm going to upset a lot of people here, I reckon. I would say Mumbai. Mumbai was brilliant. And I mean, I've been a few times since doing sort of commentary work and stuff like that. I love Mumbai, and it's just a shame. I nearly went over to do this England series for Sony TV, but because I'd half agreed to do another channel, plus the quarantine laws coming back, I decided against. I just couldn't go over. But I love Mumbai. I think it's a great place. It's a great place. The hotel, the Taj Mahal Hotel is fantastic. The cricket grounds are brilliant. The street food is excellent. I love Mumbai. It's one of the best places to tour, to be fair, not just in India, but around the world.
Okay, I've got the real important question for you. This is from Jack Trav, I think it is. Jack_Trav on Instagram. And he says, what is your Nando's order?
Oh, Nando's order. I normally get chicken thighs. I normally have a share, that boneless share meal, which I tend to try and share it with one of my smaller children, so I get a little bit more. And Nando, everybody loves the Nando's. Cricketers, I tell you one thing, you will find, Jack, if you go into a dressing room, if you go into a cricket dressing room, no matter which one it is around this country, England, it's 6:30. I can guarantee there'll be somebody going to Nando's on that night. If not everybody. Everybody goes to Nando's at least once a trip, possibly twice a trip. I remember we were in Africa I think we were in Africa in 2004. I think me and Rob Key had Nando's for lunch and Nando's for dinner as well. So
that doesn't surprise me with Keezy.
Hey?
That doesn't surprise me with Keezy.
No. We had I'm sure we had a Nando's at lunch and then Nando's at tea. We're in Johannesburg, I remember. And no, all the cricketers love a Nando's.
Okay, let's head over to YouTube because we've got people watching and asking questions and have done throughout. So let's have a look. This is from Aria and on the Ask Harmy hashtag. Does anyone really care about overrates, or is the value of overrates overrated? I see what he's done there. Do you know what? Virat Kohli actually spoke about overrates today in the press conference. I thought he was just going to bat it away, but actually he gave it a proper answer because, of course, now you're punished. You lose points in the World Test Championship for overrate. So I think, in fact, Australia would have played in the final of the World Test Championship ahead of New Zealand if they hadn't been docked for a slow overrate. So actually, it is important. But I'm not answering your question for you. But does anyone care? I mean, what the punters who come to Lords shelling out 100 quid, do they really walk away grumbling if they've lost out on 3 or 4 overs, or are they all pissed on champagne?
No, I think they care. And I think it's a disgrace. There was a good friend of mine, Malcolm Humble, from Benton Cricket Club. He's followed England all around the world, and he sent me a message at the end of the day's play when 78 overs had been bowled, and he was like, "I'm so furious. I'm just looking for somebody to complain to." And I said, well, you're going to struggle if you're looking for somebody at the ECB to complain to, because they're going to be all watching the 100. Nobody seems to be that bothered. The players don't seem to be as bothered as they possibly should be. It's been around for a while now, and it's been getting out of hand. The 100's had a good idea where you basically lose a fielder from outside the circle once you've gone. I think it should be for every over, because there was a game with London's, the Originals the other night. The Oval Invincibles the other night. Sam Billings it just took forever. And once he had lost his one fielder, it just seemed as though he wasn't bothered after that. Nothing against Sam, this was the rules. But I thought, you know what? They were about 20 minutes over the top. KP was going mad as he normally does. And I thought they should have lost fielder after fielder after fielder outside the circle to do that. And I think you could do that in some format in Test match cricket. You play until the game's, or after you get 10 runs, the opposition get 10 runs for every over that you lose. And you're losing. If you're starting to lose 10 overs, then people will start to hurry up. So I do believe something has to happen, because I think Test match cricket is hanging by a thread. And I think it's only because of the likes of Virat Kohli, the way he speaks and goes about the game, Joe Root, Kane Williamson, the way they go about the game, Davey Warner, especially the big characters and the big players still want to have Test match cricket in their, on their CV and the pinnacle that the game is still alive. We've got a big test coming up round the corner in the Ashes, and what happens with that. And I think Overrate is another one that's just rearing its head, that people are getting sick of Test match cricket for. So I think the players need to sort of step up and do their duty to make sure they get as many overs in as possible in the time allotted for the day's play.
Okay, well, look, we've got about 5 minutes left of this live Q&A, the first of many, hopefully. Big thanks to Aria for getting that question in from the YouTube feed. Hopefully, we'll get another couple flashing up. I can always go back. Oh, no, there's one from Vasanth, who says, is this the best chance for India to win at Lords? And will England pack their batting? With both Anderson and Broad missing, what will be England's strategy? Good question.
It's a great question, because is it the best chance? It's the best chance of India to win in England for a long, long time. in my
Well,
opinion.
They won here in 2014, was it? No, yeah, 2014.
Yeah,
they actually bounced England out. I think it was a bit of a strange, and then England came back to win the series.
yeah, that was
but
14. Yeah,
that was 14. I think. I think then in 2000 and what year was it? 19 possibly. The conditions here, it was a win the toss and you can't lose the game match. Rained all day, and basically England or whoever won the toss had an hour, 90 minutes to bowl at the opposition in the darkest conditions I've ever seen Test cricket played ever. And funnily enough, Jimmy Anderson just got it to just wheel through. Yeah. Exactly. So, and really unlucky for India on that occasion. But how big a chance do you think this is for India to win here at Lord's over the next 5 days?
It is, but you've also got to look at the England team. England team will be without their superstars. But they're also going to put players in who will be chomping at the bit to say, right, I can either resurrect my Test career in Moeen Ali's case, get my career back on track in one or two other cases like Bairstow. There's a responsibility on a couple of people to stand up and be counted, and that is Butler. And the team is going to be interesting. I think Wood has to play, and if Wood plays and Curran plays, I think you have to play a 5-man bowling attack, which means Moeen Ali. I actually think Moeen Ali might bat at 6. I think Moeen Ali might bat at 6. I think Josh Butler will stay at 7, Moeen at 6. On the other end, if they try and get Ollie Pope in, would this be out of the box thinking of, well, is Butler under pressure? Does Bairstow take the gloves and Pope come in for Butler in that middle order? So I don't think we're quite there yet. I'm backing Josh to score the runs, the volume of runs that this team needs and stand up and be counted. Now that the two experienced bowlers are not playing, as well as Stokes in that middle order. So I think these are things that I was thinking about, trying to somehow get Ollie Pope back in the side, and who's going to score me more runs, because that's what England need. England needs somebody to score runs rather than to catch the ball. They've got 2 wicket keepers in their side, so they could have gone that way. I think Wood will play alongside Robinson, alongside Overton, and they'll pack the baton from sort of lower order to make sure that they'll have enough runs. They've got 5 bowling options. They've got a left-arm bowling option, and they've got a fast lad. And because of that, that looks a very, very good bowling attack from a variation point of view. They're international cricketers, so they'll, hopefully they should be up to speed. And it's just a case of England again. Can you score enough runs to give your 5-man bowling attack a chance to take 20 wickets against India?
Okay, one last question from YouTube, and thanks so much for coming to Steve Harmson's channel to ask so many questions. This is from Quality Shot. Do you see Hamid coming in for Sibley or coming in for Crawley in the second Test match? And more importantly, do you actually think he should be playing anyway?
It's a difficult one on Hamid. You've got to remember that he is in a decent bit of form after horrendous 2 years of not scoring any runs, losing his contract at his home club, having to move away and play at Notts. So overcoming that for me is fantastic. It's brilliant. Is it time for him to come in? Well, it's not far away. I've heard he's in very, very good touch. A lot of people have seen him play in nets and say he looks in decent order, but nets is not the middle. I think he will come in. I actually do think he will come in. I'd be tempted to come in for Burns, but Burns got 100 at Lords against New Zealand early on. I think Burns' timings look just all over the shop. Sibley batted for 130 balls. So if it is Crawley, who's the most vulnerable, that he possibly just needs to come out to sort of get it back into playing in the middle at a little bit lower standard, scoring runs, bat for a long period of time, and then we'll get him back in. Zach Crawley will play a lot of Test matches for England, and I think Zach Crawley will be a key pivotal part of the Ashes in the winter if they go ahead, because somebody that's tall, hits the ball strong down the ground, on top of the bounce, can play the bouncing ball very, very well. I think Zach Crawley will be key for England in Australia. but you've got to get him some confidence to get to Australia, and you might have to take him out to then put him back in.
Brilliant stuff. Well, look, thanks so much for watching at 7 for 12, the first live Q&A. Don't forget to like, subscribe, review, and get your question in. We do answer them on the show, and we will be with you following every single day's play of this series between England and India, starting tomorrow from Lords. Whoever wins the toss, I imagine will bat first. Especially if India go in with 2 spinners. So that is going to be absolutely crucial. And as Harmy said at the top of the show, if you like this, then we'll do this ahead of every single test match. But for now, Harmy, I'll chat to you tomorrow, and go well. And we will reconvene following play here at Lords, following day 1 of the second test match between England and India. Thanks for watching.